Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2018 Lexus LS500. Up front is a 3.5 liter twin turbocharged V6, and down below is a 10-speed automatic transmission. Now I am super excited to be driving this here LS500 because I've driven a couple of the LSs of the past, a first generation, as well as a second generation LS430, and even a Japanese domestic market Toyota Celsior, which was only sold in Japan. So I've driven a couple LSs before, but there's a huge year gap between the last one and this one. This is a 2018 and still a current model LS. However, there was a refresh in 2021. This is still the current 5th generation of the LS. And so I'm excited to see what's changed over the last 20 years. But before we get on with the rest of the video, if you are interested in helping out the channel, there's a bunch of awesome links in the description below. One is a Bluetooth OBD2 sensor, would not work on this car, but it will pair to your smart device and help you diagnose issues in your vehicle's 1996 and up. There is Con Plates, which is a suction cup license plate mount, or Cash for Cars if you're looking to sell your vehicle. Huge thank you to all of our sponsors, and every purchase helps out the channel. But let's get on with the video. So let's get back to that 3.5 liter twin turbocharged V6 under the hood. A couple of things about it. First of all, it's actually technically a 3.44 liter, but Lexus rounds up because every auto manufacturer rounds up. It's not the same engine that you would find in a Toyota Sienna or like an RX 350 or anything of that nature. It's actually a new engine. It was designed for this car, but we're starting to see Toyota put it into other vehicles, like the new Tundra and other Lexus products. It makes 416 horsepower, which is a fair amount. This is a quick car, especially for being a big-bodied luxury car. This is also the first generation of the Lexus LS to not receive a V8. Of the past, the Lexus LS400 was a 4-liter V8. The Lexus LS430 was a 4.3-liter V8. And so, for 2017, the year this body style debuted, they actually went to a smaller displacement V6, but they added the twin turbos, so it actually makes more power than the previous generation, but it's a smaller engine. Like I said, paired to it is a 10-speed automatic transmission, and I like the feeling of it. It's shifting exactly when I want it to, and I don't even notice it shifting. However, when you actually go for it, put your foot to the floor, it acts a lot like a 6-speed. It's really a 6-speed with 4 overdrives, which are for highway cruising and fuel economy, of course. Speaking of which, fuel economy is 18 city, 27 highway from the manufacturer. And this car, with getting a little bit of a mix of both, is sitting at about 23.5 miles per gallon. 3.5 liter twin turbo. The thing is that you're gonna hear a lot of engine noise. It's all piped in, not real engine noise, but here we go. It's quick. It gets out of its own way for sure. However, like I said, a lot of that engine noise was piped in. Let me get it back here to comfort. A lot of that engine noise, actually all of that engine noise is piped in. So it's not really real, and it doesn't have that sort of high-end floatiness of the V8 where I'm driving and I can just punch it and it effortlessly goes. This downshifts, this spools the turbos, this kind of gets in your face if you're going quick and you want to pass someone, where the V8 was more sublime at higher speed. It had 2 extra cylinders. However, at the end of the day, this is faster. This is a quicker car than the LSs of yesteryear. So that's nice to see some improvement in technology. Last but not least, this here LS500 is all-wheel drive. And what's interesting is it actually has a Torsen limited slip center differential for the all-wheel drive system, which is really nice if that's something that you are looking for. Before we get onto the interior, I do also want to note that you can find these LS500s in a hybrid. So if you're looking at these online, you see 500H, 500H, what does that mean? It means that it's a hybrid. So it's actually a slightly different setup and will have different specs, but this is the non-hybrid LS500. With that out of the way, let's talk about the interior. We have a ton to talk about in here, so buckle up. Well, in front of me, I have a digital screen as well as 2 physical gauges. On the left is my coolant temperature, and on the right is my fuel. Then I get that digital gauge in the center. I really like the look of it. It has a great refresh rate when you do floor it. The needle has very smooth movement, and it almost has this sort of wake behind it when you're in comfort mode, sort of a swooping needle as opposed to a hard stickler needle. And the actual gauge cluster itself is surrounded by this stitching and leather, which I've never seen in a car that I've reviewed so far. This might be a Chicago reference, but this really reminds me of like the Macy's holiday windows that they do downtown Chicago. I don't know if a lot of people know what that is, but if you do, it looks just like that. I feel like the center screen is like in a window display. Up above the gauges, I do have my traction control in snow mode to the left and my drive modes to the right. So I do have Sport, Sport Plus, Normal, Custom, Comfort, and Eco, which can all be selected over to the right. On the steering wheel, I do have paddle shifters around the back, as well as on the left, I have my options for that center gauge screen, volume, pages, phone, and voice commands, and on the right, I have my radar cruise control settings. Now, this does have radar cruise control, which is great. However, there are actually two different versions of radar cruise control. The higher-end Lexus LS500s actually got a different radar cruise that incorporated lane bump and a couple other nice features. This just has standard radar cruise, which is kind of funny to say, so it won't steer for you or do any of that. But the steering wheel is nice. I have this wood accent at the top, and it's leather wrapped in the same brown leather found throughout the rest of the interior, and I really like it. Now, to the left of me, I have these metal lines that we'll talk about a little bit later on. I like the look of that. But then moving on to the door, I have my memory seat options, so I get 3 different memory seats, as well as I get the R button. So when I click this, I can actually control the passenger seat from my seat controls, which is very nice. Down below, I have the power mirrors, power locks, power windows, whatever. The whole door itself looks very nice. Normally, I'm not a big fan of all of these different materials put together. I think sometimes it can look like a first grader's collage for art class, but this actually looks very nice. I have these soft materials mixed with the laser cut wood, and it's all brown or tan, and I really like the look of it. Moving into the center, we do have the infotainment system, but first, off to the left, I do have an analog clock. It says Lexus, and the lines light up. I think it looks fantastic. You don't find base model cars with analog clocks. That's true here in the LS500. Then we have the infotainment screen, so let's pull over and talk about it. All right, so let's talk Lexus infotainment. And the reason I don't sound excited is because I actually like the infotainment screen. Let me adjust it here for you a little bit. But I don't like what I have to use in order to navigate it, which is this touchpad, but we'll talk about that later. So here we are on the navigation page. As you can see, I'm scrolling with my finger, blah, blah, blah. Once it actually gets over to stuff, it sort of clicks into place, which is kind of annoying, but we can go to menu here. We have destination, radio, media, phone, apps, info, setup, and climate. We can go over here to climate, and this is actually where I run my heated and ventilated seat options. Here's the thing, there are no physical buttons to run your heated seat, which I would have liked. Seat and steering, see, I can turn all this stuff on. See, it's very clunky. It's very clunky, but I could also turn that on. Or I could go down to concierge, and that's kind of like an auto setting as well. I also do have massaging seats for the driver's seat. It's called seat refresh. So if we come down here, seat refresh, I have a bunch of different options that I can go through. We'll talk about the seats more in depth in a second here. But I can set different programs and things like that. But only the driver's seat is massaged, not the passenger seat. Now, a big gripe I have with media is the fact that this does not get Apple CarPlay, which is missing the boat a little bit being a 2018, but they only got Apple CarPlay here in 2021. Lexus and Toyota is seriously behind the ball when it comes to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So the LS here, even though $88,000 did not get Apple CarPlay, for 2018. I can also do a sort of split screen where I can look at my audio as well as navigation, things like that, but it's not too crazy. We do have a backup camera here, which is not the best quality, as you can see, and as you're hearing, there is a backup beeper. Now, this is always on whenever you're backing up, and it's only audibly inside the car. I can also switch views if I'd like to do that and turn the lines differently. When I do turn the steering wheel, the lines do adjust themselves, which is very nice. God, I have to talk over this beep. So according to the owner, the beep can actually be reprogrammed by a Lexus dealer to just beep once. However, for some reason, this is stuck like a Mack truck. So you're stuck with this, which is just dumb. Down below the infotainment screen, I do have 2 climate control vents and the hazard switch. Again, nice leather stitching, and these have the lines that carry on from the left side that I mentioned earlier. There's this swooping design that goes across the dashboard, and it's incorporated into these vents, and then they get smaller and go off to the right of the vehicle. As well as up above on the far right in front of the passenger, there's this little light up piece of art that has these swooping lines on it. That's it. That's all that it is. It's not a screen. You can't change it. You can't do anything to it. It's just a little piece of art, like a nice hotel room. But moving back into the center, we have the climate controls down below those vents. And this is really a centerpiece of the LS500. Not only because it's in the center of the car, but everything down here is really well made. First of all, the tune and scroll knobs are kind of incorporated into the same area, which I love. I love when manufacturers can make something more concise, and they feel fantastic. Great physical feedback. I don't feel like if I sneeze, I'm gonna accidentally rip it off. Very well built. Then we have the temperature itself. A little screen, little scroll knob, feels good, whatever. But when you scroll the temperature, it actually is like an old car's odometer. You see it actually roll, even though it's a digital screen. There's nothing physically rolling, but it has that aesthetic to it, and I just love that attention to detail. It would have been easy if when you just scrolled up once, the number just changes, but Lexus took the time to actually program that into the car, and I love that attention to detail. The rest of the climate controls work and feel good, and what I love is that there's no piano black on touch areas in this car. Then I do have seat, track, radio, and media buttons, and I have a CD player down below the climate controls, as well as my auto holding brake button. Moving on to the center console itself, we have the shifter off to the left, which I am not a fan of. The reason for it is because this is kind of like the Prius shifter where you move it left and back, left and forward, and stuff like that, which is fine. But it itself looks like a shifter that wouldn't be that way. So it keeps messing with my head. I keep trying to feel for a button or something, but it doesn't have that. Another thing that baffles my mind is this touchpad. I hate it. I hate this touchpad with a lot of passion. I don't see a real reason for it. It's annoying to get used to. Can you get used to it? Yes. Do I want to? No. It's just annoying. It's not very good. I'm not sure what I'm doing. There's too big of a learning curve for something that's so important to a car. And so that's it. I'm not going to rage on forever about this, but I truly hate the touchpad. Then I do have my button down below for the rear sunshade. I can raise and lower. Very, very smooth on the operation. If you watch the video, watch this. Put it back up. Oh, look at how smooth that is. Yes, block out that Kia Forte that's riding my bumper. Block him right out. And then I have a button that will bring me right to my seat adjustments. We'll talk about that in a second. To the right of that touchpad and those buttons, I do have cup holders. So we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the LS500, and it fails, which is a little disheartening. Big car, I'd want to bring my bottle along with. Then again, Lexus Toyota has never been huge on cup holders, so par for the course on this one. Then I get this giant center console. This might be one of the biggest center console lids I've ever seen in a car. And you can open it both ways, which is really, really nice. So the passenger can open it just as easily as the driver can open it. But now we got to talk about the seats. Like I said, the seats are power, heated, ventilated, massage, and just downright comfortable. The driver's seat is 28-way adjustable. You can adjust it 28 different ways, which is just, it's obscene, but kind of cool. But now let's get some massage feature going here, and you can feel it start working. This has one of the more aggressive massage features out there. Now, am I getting absolutely beaten up right now to the point where I can't see the road? No, but out of the cars I've reviewed with massage seats, and I'm fortunate enough to have driven a handful, this seems to do the most work. But speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2018 Lexus LS500. Knee room should go without saying, tons of knee room. and actually a good amount of headroom. Now, Lexus actually made this a point about this architecture for the 5th generation LS500, that it has a low roof line on the outside, but in here it still retains a good amount of headroom, which is great. So I do have Mark Levinson speakers up here. I forgot to mention that up there with the radio. This has a Mark Levinson sound system, which is a 23 speaker sound system, which is phenomenal. Really, really good. But I do have these little vanity mirrors back here. This is something that even the early 2000s LS's got, which is nice to see that they kept that up. I also do have the laser cut wood from the front doors on the back doors as well, but I get these nice Mark Levinson speaker covers that just look fantastic. Again, they look like a modern art piece, which is a shame because the front speakers don't get nice covers like this, so you only get to enjoy them if you're in the back seat. I do have some mood lighting on the door, as well as my power window, little grab handle, things like that. And moving into the center, I do have 3 different levels of heated seats for back here, which is very nice. I can also set the heated seats to auto. I do have a 12-volt outlet down in front of me, and I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if, no, the GoPro's probably not picking that up. I can actually manually move the passenger seat using these controls back here. So if I'm sitting over here and there's no passenger, I'm being chauffeured or whatever, I can actually move that seat all the way up, which is really nice. I also have controls for the rear sunshade behind me, a little bit louder back here, but I can control that myself. And then of course the other seat gets heated controls. I do have this center console here with a true Lexus first aid kit, which has never been opened, so I will not be opening it. It has that factory seal on it, which is nice. And I get 2 2.1 amp chargers in here. And of course, this actually does fold up as well if I want it out of the way. But I kind of like sitting back here and feeling like I have my own little command center. The back seats are really, really good. They've always been really good in the LS series from Lexus. That's kind of the point of these, is that they are the largest sedan chassis that Lexus offers. So they're the best for riding in the back, and this is definitely something you might want to consider having a chauffeur drive you around in. However, the executive trim level also has power adjusting seats so you can lean them back, as well as rear massage seats. So something to consider if you're looking at LS500s. Let's take a quick look at the trunk and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, so we're on the back of the LS500, and something really nice that it has, you just kick your foot under it and it'll actually open, and it has a power opening trunk, which is really nice. The trunk is decently spacious, not as wide as I thought it was going to be, but still pretty good for a large size sedan. I don't think you'll really be hurting for cargo space back here. Nothing really too crazy to note besides this power trunk, which I really love. Touch of one button and it closes right back down like that. Love that feature. Now we gotta talk about the looks. This particular LS500 is finished in manganese luster with the black wheels. They are 20-inch wheels with run-flat tires, which we'll talk about here in a second after we do our walk around. I love the look of the LS500. I think it's still subtle enough to not really catch too much attention in traffic, but it's still presentable. If someone pulled up in one of these, I'd be like, you know what, that's a really nice looking car. It's classy. And that's what I love about Lexuses, and that's what I've always loved about the LS from Lexus, is that they've always been sort of subtle luxury, where they have all these great features, they drive nice, they're very luxurious, but they don't shout that at you. They don't make your car feel less, which is really, really nice. So something kind of interesting under the hood is that if you look at the supports, you'll see this right here. This is an explosive. No, I'm not kidding. So if you hit someone with the front of your Lexus LS500, those 2 explosives on either end will actually go off and tilt the hood this way just a little bit to help cushion the fall if you hit a person. I have never seen that on a car. Volvo apparently has been doing it for a little while, and now Lexus does it as well. Kind of an interesting pedestrian safety feature, but hey, if you end up getting hit by a Lexus LS500, at least you'll have a slightly softer fall. But now let's get to my final thoughts here, and I want to get back to those run-flat tires that I didn't mention at the top of the video. The LS500 is only available from Lexus with run-flat tires, which means you can drive almost 200 miles on a flat tire, which I don't know why you do that, but you can. However, I think it sort of compromises the ride. This does have adjustable suspension between sport and comfort modes, but you can still feel that hard sidewall when you go over cracks and bumps in the road. So if this were my personal car, I would probably seek out a different tire that wasn't run flats, and honestly, I'd probably go down to like an 18 or 19-inch wheels so I can fit thicker sidewalls. But so, what do I think of the LS500 as a whole, getting away from the run flat tires? Well, I think that this is a fabulous luxury car. As a daily driver, I can't see you wanting much else. Gets good enough gas mileage at 27 on the highway, which is most of my driving. It has massage seats. It's comfortable. The sound system is great. The Mark Levinson is great. It's smooth. It's quiet. It's really great. Now, the other thing that keeps crossing my mind is that this particular car, with all of its options and everything, was originally offered at about $88,000, which actually makes sense to me. I feel like this is great value for dollar in terms of all the features in here, the size of it, the luxury of it. I think it is a really good deal, but it does have me wondering. So with this being such a good deal, it has me wondering, what are other luxury cars in this segment like? Well, isn't that convenient? This is a 2016 Mercedes S63 AMG. Up front is a 5.5-liter twin-turbo V8, and down below is a 7-speed automatic transmission. Now, there are a couple of things that we can't really compare here in the S63 to the LS500. Mainly the powertrain. This makes way more horsepower than the LS500. And of course, this being an AMG, it gets a little bit more bells and whistles. But besides that, let's compare. Is this really better than the LS500? Does the LS500 belong with vehicles in this segment? Well, the materials are a little bit nicer, the buttons are a little bit firmer, the speakers look a lot nicer actually, but it's all marginally. This car doesn't particularly blow the LS500 out of the water in any category besides straight line speed, which with a turbo V8, it better blow it out of the water. And you have to remember that this S63 is twice the MSRP of the LS500. This was priced at about $160, whereas we mentioned the LS500 is around $88. Is this car twice the car that the LS500 is? And honestly, no. This isn't really twice the car. Yes, it has some nicer features, and it's quicker, but it's not twice the car. Getting out of the LS500 into the S63, the differences are minor here and there, but not $70,000 worth of difference. And that's impressive. And before we get back into the LS500, I can guarantee you this car won't last nearly as long as the LS500. The LS500 will outlive this car. It just will. Let's hop back into the LS500 and finish out this video. For the price, this makes a lot of sense. It really does. I'm comfortable. And come on, it's a Wednesday morning. This is my job, is to drive around in a comfortable LS500. I'm not mad. I am certainly not mad. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Anthony for letting me take out their LS500. I've worked with Anthony a bunch in the past. I've reviewed a couple of their other cars, and I'll leave a link to that S63 AMG review at the end of this one. Please go check that one out. That's another one of Anthony's vehicles, and I can't thank them enough for letting me take all of the cars out. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.